Ladies and gentlemen, we would now like to present to you and formally introduce Bob, Cos, and Arthur, the Play No Games podcast. It's your favorite podcast. When we talk about real life and exchange a few laughs, we sticking to our path. When you find understanding, just know that will never last. We ain't here to play no games.
What's poppin', you guys? It's Portland's best kept secret. The Play No Games podcast. It's Cartier Bob.
It's Cos.
It's Arthur.
And we got another slamming episode for you. Now, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. That's free. But if you do have some cash, $ Hero Bob, I would love to pay all my friends. Like, hey, it's getting the winter and Tiny Tim will be working during the fall and the winter if y'all don't help us out. But very soon, y'all will know why I'm fitted to a T, because we have some interesting people, as you can clearly see on the show today. I feel like my voice will be heard today. But I'm going to pass it on to AJ, because he's going to hip you to our most best favorite segment.
Yeah, person over there need help today.
I think you just mad I look handsome.
Lord, thank you for his sins, because
That was actually funny.
the segment is Play No Games. It could be positive, negative, informative. It could be anything about your day. All you have to say is, I'm ready to play no games about this. Go ahead, Cos. You've been absent for a while, so you know.
Yeah.
So I know you got some stuff built up in there. You know.
Yeah, it's built up all right.
I mean, mine is not super significant, I'll be honest, but it is top of mind, so I'm just gonna say it.
Go ahead.
I'm playing no games about having some car problems,
shit.
As much as I boast around with my German cars, keep it short. Losing coolant somehow, don't know where it's going. Gotta take it into the shop tomorrow, we'll see. Maybe taking out a small loan if this is going where I think it might be going. But
The Beanie's on life support?
no, it's not on life support. We're just this is early action. We're making sure it's not gonna blow up.
Oh snap!
All right, so we're just early precautions. This is how you prevent bad stuff happening. That's all I'm gonna say. Rob, what are you playing no games about?
Wow. Okay. Playing no games about my thigh. Touching my leg. Anywho. You know what I'm playing no games about? This will be a later future topic, but I've been playing no games about. It's not going to be today, but I'm going to keep it short and simple. The English language. World champs versus NBA champs. Oh. It boggles my mind what we get bothered with on the internet on a day-to-day basis. I know I've talked a lot about on this show about like how the Derrick Jacksons and the City Girls of the internet like give me like a brain aneurysm, but literally us arguing about world champions versus they don't play the world. But everyone when it gets to the NBA, I see your point. But all the NBA players, I'm just like, can we get riled up by something else that matters? Like, oh my gosh, that actually bothered me. But I'm just curious. Yeah, what do y'all think? Never mind. That was my thing.
I'm just gonna give you that.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll agree with you though. I think it was stupid how pissed off everyone got about that. Specifically, I don't know why Drake had to get involved. You know that?
I was like,
his comment was he was acting like he's standing on the NBA player side, like, yeah, guys, this guy's a nerd. This guy's a cornball. All this stuff. Just sucking off all the NBA guys.
But honestly, you have to say world champ because there's countries like Toronto. Toronto's in Canada, so
interesting.
It's not just the U.S.
You know how many? Never mind. There's not any flags in the NBA. But that's neither here nor there.
But a lot of the people aren't from. There's a lot of foreign players now in the NBA, which is also another facet of the game. So it's like, I think it appeases everyone because where the NBA is going. Also, I think it's, I don't know.
Oh,
I understand like why people can be upset, but it's like they do it in hockey, they do it in soccer, they do it in all different sports. When you talk about boxing and all that, which I know boxing's different because people actually compete around the world, but like, I don't know, it's different. Yeah,
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. That's fine. We'll just let it go.
Yeah.
I have more comments, but I'll save them from a different podcast.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I'll kick it to you, AJ. What are you playing on games
Now
about?
we're gonna pass it to the guest, Mr. Bay. What you playing no games with today?
Well, I would say playing no games about insufficiency of knowledge. I think that people give themselves not enough credit, and they do not have enough joy. The big thing today, is what brings you joy in life. Joy is something that's a lot different than happiness. It was kind of explained in a TED Talk I was watching that happiness is something that's over time, and joy is essentially the encapsulation of all of that in one single moment. So, I think that inspiring people is dynamic and very, very paramount. It's needed. So the insufficiency of knowledge is like an illusion in a lot of ways. So I'm playing no games about the insufficiency of knowledge.
They came with an uppercut on it.
like that.
Yeah.
Put that on Paramount Plus. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yes, indeed.
Ready for me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, mine's basic. Oh, I ain't playing no games with Portland drivers, man. We're here again. Yo, like, there's cameras everywhere. I understand. We have cameras, like so many cameras. I mean, I know it's not as bad as other countries, but like this additive to cameras everywhere is ridiculous. But like, I'm on the freeway and someone's pulled over on the freeway and everyone, they move over, get out the lane, next to the lane, whatever, but then they slow down. And it's like, he's already pulled somebody over. You don't need to slow down. They have someone pulled over. Just keep driving. And it's like we're on the freeway, freeway's like slow 50 and people are going like 45. And you're like, bro, like, go. And I don't know, to me it just gets annoying, like, especially when you got places to be and things to do. You got people that just drive for no reason, and yeah. So
Where you gotta be?
here,
Oh,
Here.
what?
yeah, here.
I was gonna say he's driving over to somebody's house. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't have.
Okay. Oh yeah, he faithful. Hey, he ain't in them streets.
That's funny.
I'm never in the streets.
Man, I know somebody.
Who?
No, huh?
Oh yeah.
I know Arthur passes people on the right lane.
That is legendary funny.
I pass people whatever I can pass.
Yeah, there you
If I gotta go all the way out,
Lead in.
There you go.
yeah, man, get out the way. I'm driving. So, as we roll into this episode, you see we have a guest here. Not only is he a Moorish American, he'll put you up on game about that, but also he is one of the first Moorish Americans to run for mayor for the city of Portland.
Indeed.
And not only he has his own faithful farm, a family farm, but he's a man of many knowledge, as you will say. And this is Mr. Durrell Bay. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Appreciate it. Durrell Kinsey Bay. Indeed, running for mayor for the city of Portland. I'm very happy to be in this position and have this opportunity to literally change the world. Don't want to be sounding cliche, but world has many different aspects. It could be home, where you actually live in your house. It could be school. I could work in a school district. It could be your neighborhood. It could be your community. It could be your state, city, etc. So the perceptions being changed, and then people change their perspective and they go and talk to other people. You're changing the world because now there's a different outlook that people are providing to other individuals, and then it catapults from there. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm really excited to get into the conversation and see what type of questions y'all got for me, because this is unscripted and I'm excited and nervous all at the same time.
Stays unscripted. Talk about let's not go too deep, but let's talk about this Moorish American aspect of you, and also where you're from, just to give people perspective on the foundation and what you represent, and how you plan to present this to people.
It's a great question. So I was born in Kennewick, Washington, county of Benton. Family, like I mentioned earlier, has been there for over 100 years. Started the Black Panther Party of Self-Defense in the mid-'60s. Went to Oakland, California to receive a charter to establish that aspect of the organization in that area. Still, dealing with racism. In that time, it was very, very heavy. And that was predominantly on my dad's side of the family. My mother's side of the family were also Black Panthers. And my grandfather, Uhuru Mandinka, was gunned down in New Orleans, left for dead for 7 days, left his body in the streets. Then they had a memorial service for him. And hearing about those stories growing up, shaped my perspective on how to look at this world that we live in. And on the flip side, I had a grandfather who also was a superintendent of a school district. He started as a principal, and then he was upgraded into superintendent. So I have both, activism and education, literally flowing through my veins. And I didn't really come to the realization of that until I was about 24 years old, 29 now. And of course, I'll be the youngest mayor in the history of Portland upon being elected. And when it comes to my Moorish American heritage, that's something that had to do with some internal and external studying. There was an organization that was founded in 1913 by a man named Noble Drew Ali, and he brought a different knowledge to our people in the south side of Chicago, starting previously in Newark, New Jersey. And he told our people in 1913 that we were not Black, we're not Negroes, we're not colored, we're not Ethiopian. And that shocked a lot of people. What are you talking about? He had a flaming red fez on my head, and he was yelling this on top of a milk crate. Because back in those days, they had literally milk crates that people would stand on, and they would speak to the people. And he began to shake things up. He was arrested several times for what they call practicing medicine without a license. And, he continued to pursue to heal the people. He felt that, he said, he's known to have quoted to have said, a lot of our issues are social and economic, and in a more profound sense, they're moral and spiritual. And he felt that, our people history was like a tree that had its roots cut out. coming here on these shores of America, and learning about him shaped my early years. I learned about him when I was 12. And so since the age of 12, being raised Christian at the time, that shook some things up in my perspective about history and my life. And so, not to go too deep, even though I feel like I have a little bit, but not to go too deep. I looked at history in regards to the slave trade, and I thought to myself, okay, who was responsible for the slave trade, transatlantic slave trade, and what was their religious background, and then what was the religious background of the individuals who were then enslaved. And they were Muslims, also known as Muslims, but they were Muslims, and they practiced Islam. And they were persecuted for their religion and their African heritage. And that then is what you then hear about later on or further back as the Christian Crusades. So like a lot of these things are pieces of puzzles coming together in regards to learning about who the Moorish people are. I mean, it's a big kept secret, that many people are not told. I mean, it's one of the greatest secrets not told, and you could see how basically, like I was speaking about earlier, when it comes to Freemasonry, like most people misidentify me as being a Shriner, which is a high degreed Mason. And we're not Masons. This is our cultural headdress, being a Fez. It was taken off our heads, and that's how we were then hoaxed, if you will, to being slaves, being made slaves, enslaved people. Essentially, we were just prisoners of war. So there's a lot to that. But yeah, being Moorish American is simply being aware of who we are in regards to a nation of people that inhabited northwest and southwestern shores of Africa. And now we're born here in America, known as the United States of America. I mean, I think that's kind of a small way to kind of break it down, even though I was a little long-winded.
No worries.
I'm curious because when you kind of just like look at the day and age as as we kind of get deeper into the 21st century, where people are discovering themselves, whether it's sexuality, where it's gender, where it's also with race and ethnicity as well, where someone who's watching this and not even knowing their heritage, because like I feel like Black people have just figured out like, all right, we have more lineage in the continent of Africa. How would someone who's trying to even figure that out for themselves even have this be like, oh, maybe I'm even more in tune in this area? So where would someone kind of even start to like figure out their roots?
That was a great question. Any individual of African descent in particular, who specifically identifies as being African American, or who is considered what people may call ADOS, American Descendant of Slavery, they'll come to find out, like they say, follow the money. So in this case, slavery was a huge business. If we look at it objectively, it was a massive business. It was very lucrative. It was very profitable, and it was a great investment objectively. Obviously, we know it's immoral. We know it's insidious. We know all these things. But objectively, it was the best business model that exists. Literally invest money and make 1,000% profit. Invest more money, make 1,000% profit. And sometimes even more scaling, where it's 10,000%, 200,000%, 5,000,000% profit every single time. You're not losing. And then people had insurance policies on these individuals. So if they killed them, or if they were killed, they would be paid out by the insurance companies. So thinking about all of those things, and then understanding that we have individuals who were brought here from Africa, as what has been said. And they said, then we came here in 1611. So like, this is where it is taught in the mass media, if you will. 1611 is the first Africans that came to America. Complete lie, but that's what they say. Then they say that these people were slaves. Another lie. POW is a prisoner of war. You're only a prisoner of war if you're connected to a nation of people. If you call someone a slave, then you're explaining and expressing that they have no cultural association, which is asinine and ludicrous. It's not even fathomable for individuals to say there's no connection to anything. But that was the form of European psychology, also known as white supremacy, that was implemented. So we have 1611. Then we go to a time in a place called Europe. Like, you're from Romania, a place called Europe, where in 1609, there was a thing in Europe, specifically Western Europe in Spain, called the expulsion of Moriscos. In ancient Spanish, Moriscos is Moorish people. So it's a process of learning how to associate Spanish with us and also Latin with us, because these are the languages that we actually spoke when we were in Europe. Now, we say in Europe, well, what were we doing in Europe? Because now this is to answer your question. Well, we come to find out the Moorish people were in Europe for over 700 years, and they were the rulers in Europe. They were then expelled from Europe after empire began to fall in Granada in what you know, 1492. January 2nd is when the Moorish kingdom began to fall. It was called the last stronghold of the Moors. And so this is when a lot of our ancestors began to decrease their moral compass and become more narcissistic and began to have harems and sex slaves and children out of wedlock. Sound familiar? Whole bunch of baby mamas. We were doing that in 1400s, 1300s. We've been doing this. We've been having baby mamas and children out of wedlock and not taking care of our children. The child support issue that we have now, that's remnants of when we had kingdoms in Spain and in Europe. And that's a part of our karmic reconciliation that we have to reconcile. So I hope that answers the question. I want to kind of make it as ambiguous as possible to not make it like this is what you are, type of thing. I want people to be able to open to explore. But that's documented information where you can go and study the Catholic history and how the Roman Catholics, they said they wanted to rid the world of Moors. All the paper bulls, PAPALBUL, those Papa bulls, those were all edicts to kill Saracens, Jews, Moriscos, which are all the same people. They're all Moorish people, ethnically. Their religious background, that didn't mean nothing then. Not like it means now. Oh, I'm a Christian. You're a Muslim blood. We're not family. What? We're ethnically from the same group of people. So yeah.
Now, could Robert use like a 23andMe also?
I like that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I think that that's a huge thing. One thing I'll tell the audience in regards to DNA is context. CONTEXT. Context is vital, because if we say, "Oh, I did my DNA and it says that my DNA attaches to Kenya," oh, I'm Kenyan. Well, you can claim Kenyan because according to international law and United Nations Charter, I think it's Article 15, everyone has a right to a nationality. So you can proclaim any nationality that you want and attach yourself to a nation of people anywhere on the planet Earth and get citizenship and be that citizen and embrace that nationality. Because nationality is not dealing with, bloodline today. It's the quality of character that rises out of the fact that a person belongs to a nation and or state. And these things are principled in foundation across the planet Earth. Like, this is not some new thing that Noble Durrell is bringing. And it's not a new thing that I'm going to bring to the city of Portland. Individuals call themselves black and call themselves white, call themselves Latino, call themselves Hispanic, call themselves Indian. These are terms that did not get created by the people that's embracing those names. People have a origin that they're connected to. Well, they want to embrace it or not, that's fine. But the facts is the facts. And it's important for people to recognize it because that's where pride comes from, the positive sense of pride, the restorative justice that people are due, and the unalienable rights that people are owed in the Constitution, which all of them, they didn't call themselves white. They were from France. They were from England. Sometimes from Paris. You know what I'm saying? These people were from geographical locations on the planet, and none of them were from a place called Whitopia. There's no place called Blackadonia or Brownopolis. These places do not exist.
What about Wakanda?
There is Wakanda, Oregon.
Yes.
There's a Wakanda, Washington. There was a Wakanda, Illinois.
Yeah.
That was founded by the brother of the one who founded the Wakanda, Washington. There's a Wakanda, Wisconsin park. Very interesting. I haven't looked further back, like the name that they got, but Wakanda is a real place. Now, the Wakanda in the movie that you're referencing, that's something a little different.
Oh, okay.
Kind of close to Black Wall Street and Rosewood.
Ooh, oh, we going to Black Wall Street? Oh, damn. Oh. Man, I feel like I'm not dressed appropriately for this. I feel like I need more clues. I need a monocle and a
Oppenheimer film.
You wild for that one.
So you talked about this context in which representing like where you're from and understanding like origin and how it plays a role in society and in the way people think and how they come together, separate themselves. Why is it so important now to go do a 23andMe and find this context into who we are in our society nowadays?
That's a great question. In regards to individuals, particularly who identify as African American, it's the most important thing on the planet Earth because they're one, if not the only, nation of people that don't have a national origin that they can identify specifically. Out of all the 194, 200 plus nations on the planet, they're the only group of people that I am aware of from the limited research that I have done that can actually speak unapologetically to the origin of where they come from and who they are. And that's problematic in a specific society that is always trying to push towards progressive ideas, trying to push towards identity being important, creating safe spaces, right? These are terms that we're using, right? Empathy, trauma-informed care.
Yeah.
Right? All of these things are great implementations in our society, and they're taking the country by storm for those who are predatory in their approaches, dealing with capitalism in a narcissistic way. This is great. However, one thing that is huge and important, I'm bringing Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was born Michael Luther King Jr., if you didn't know. He made it clear that there was a racial issue in the society that was separating the people, but even more deeply, it was an economic issue that was dividing the people. And then when he began to see that and began to speak to that, that's when he was a more detrimental liability to the United States government, which people fail to mention. And I bring that up because it's a clash on so many levels. You talk about reparations. Well, you can't repair a nation ever without them having the ability to identify where it is that they come from. And in that, it's not in the best interest of the United States government to speak to where the actual origin of the African Americans that are descendants of slavery come from. It's not in their best interest. They say that as African American people, we are the 4th or 5th largest nation economically in the planet and own nothing because they say we are a consumer nation. And it's very, very sad. People say, oh, well, the influence, you got hip hop. And I say, who owns it? And there was a pause. We created hip hop, we created the blues, we created funk. Own none of it. And that is problematic. We're talking about just music, let alone going into the intellectual property of all the movies that have been put out. I mean, this stuff is dealing with the truth. And that's what my campaign slogan being for mayor is: the truth will make you free. The only issue and caveat is the fact that you got to embrace it in order to make it so. Because you reject it, then we have issues and you get all flustered and upset. Well, what happened to the safe space? What happened to sitting in your uncomfortability? All the things that people say in these different spaces, whether it be social spaces or it be professional job employment spaces, you know what I'm saying? It's problematic. This is problematic. It's called gaslighting. People say that. Yeah. But you're gaslighting the whole entire nation of 350 million people. You know, when you say, you know, we got to help the state of Israel, or we got to help the nation of Ukraine, or we got to help the people in this region and this region. And then you have another side of people saying we should block our borders. We should stick to nationalism. We should stick to the American people, right? And they're called racist. Mm-hmm. And those be conservatives, right? Yeah. Typically conservative Republican values. Yet, the United States government is not a democracy. That's the biggest lie that's been ever told. It's a republic. It's a republic form of government. A democracy is associated with the same things that when we want to pick and choose who's gonna go pick up food for this movie that we're about to watch, everybody takes a vote. That's democracy. You have representatives that represent the people. It's a Republican form of government, not Republican. Republic form of government. It's a little different. Yeah. And I hope I kind of answered the question. I got long-winded, got a little excited.
Yeah, no, you're all good. Now, I want to get back. You mentioned a little bit, you know, your campaign and running for the mayor. Is there a singular moment that triggered that in you to be like, I need to run for mayor? Or was this something boiling, you know, for a while? Is this something you've had kind of your eyes on for a while now?
So, combination of both growing up and seeing certain things take place and then figuring out how those things change and why they do happen, and then kind of getting older and saying, okay, well, how can I affect change? Well, I could talk to people. I can go on podcasts. You know, I could do certain things that will, you know, change people's perspective once they embrace it or they hear what, you know, I have to say. Yeah. But when I began to realize that individuals who are in meetings that are associated with society, they have authority to influence society. Yeah. And it starts local, right? So, for example, about 90 neighborhoods in Portland. Each of them, to my knowledge, have a association that's associated with their neighborhood. It's a neighborhood association. And the neighborhood association has the legal right to speak and have meetings and vote and give measures on how they want to change their neighborhood. Advocate for different things based off of the district that they're in. Then you have another situation, what's called the two-party system, where you have Democrats and Republicans, or as I say, and this is how I'm gonna say it, because I'm not playing no games. Okay. Okay. Democrats and Republicans. Hey. Yes. So now that is what it is, dealing with a false sense of tribalism. But what ends up happening is in those organizations, you can become a PCP, which I heard this term. It's a precinct committee person, or PCO, precinct committee officer. And each political party, and well, all political parties that are in a region, they have precincts, how they govern to influence the people or get more members to the party, etc., and push them to get the vote and get information out. Mm-hmm. Right. So once I found out, about 2018, I believe, I began to learn about that structure of local government. Is like grassroots, like predominantly all precinct committee officers don't get paid. Mm-hmm. So it's like, even though you don't get paid, you literally get the opportunity to change policies in your city county, and state, or even regional governments, in this case for Metro.
Yeah.
And so that's what inspired me. And then I made the decision. Then I began to inquire and reach out to mayors and individuals in different parts of the government. And there was one particular individual, I have to give him a shout out. His brother Alex Johnson Jr. He's the mayor of Albany, Oregon, the first African descended mayor in the history of Albany, Oregon. He's on his second term, about to go for his third. He's my mentor. And I sat down with him in his office, and I was in there for about 3 hours. And he wrote on his board all these different ideas and plans on how to make this thing happen. I took all that information, kept it in my heart. Then I'm driving on the way back, and God was like, "It's yours. Now you have to go get it." So it's time to go get it. Optimism some people say optimism can be a little out of touch. However, it's a new era in time. We have different individuals that are running for political office all across this country that are under the age of 40.
Yeah.
And there's an organization, you have to give shout out to them too, called Run for Something or Running for Something. Maybe Run for Something, yeah. And the requirements of them supporting you or giving you any type of input or advice, you have to be under the age of 40 and have never ran for political office.
Oh,
You can't be running for re-election.
Mm-hmm.
No, you have to be non-connected. You know what I'm saying? Someone
That's
who's
dope.
at the bottom of the barrel.
That's super dope.
And it's a young lady. She's about 30-something years old, and she was on the campaign, I believe, for Barack Obama. And she started seeing things and seeing how things work, and then she started her own organization. And it's taking fire all across the planet Earth. Well, for the sake of the influence, but predominantly North America,
Yeah.
United States. Yeah. And she's doing a phenomenal job.
Awesome.
Phenomenal.
I just have comments. I guess more of my comments just have to be is, I heard a lot of things about, your slogan really working and getting people exposed to the truth. I feel like that's important. And it's not really my question, but it's almost kind of like in the same day and age where there's a lot of people who are questioning our current elections, and is questioning if it's rigged, dealing with our own electoral college. And it's almost kind of like when you even look at Portland in itself, a lot of people could say the mayor really doesn't run the city, it's the representatives, because they really have a lot of the powers, as you mentioned. So maybe another question I would kind of ask you a little bit later, why not take it more of a representative type of role versus, mayor? But I guess my main question, I feel like what a lot of people really in tune with politics about is, what can you do? And I want to keep this to more like local. And I know a lot of people ask, and we've talked about a lot on the show, is because a lot of your rhetoric has been a lot of holistic manners, connecting people to their roots, and that manner is houselessness. That's a big thing. Open air, drugs, I'll out ourselves. We've made, jokes, but like at our core and heart, we definitely want, people. We ain't gonna lie here, but at the core and root of it, like we want facilities for people to get like the help and for there to be an opportunity. So I guess my real direct question is an issue that you will be asked, and that is, how and what would you do to change and challenge our current modem of houselessness in Portland?
Well, definitely not reinvent the wheel.
Thank you.
Because the things that are already working, let's work on those and support those things. There's a whole bunch of organizations that are working with the houseless community, and they've been doing it for quite a long time. And it's important to encourage them to work together as one cohesive, comprehensive entity, whether it be legally incorporated or whether it just be and the spirit of harmony. Because one thing I've noticed being in Portland is a lot of silos from the top down. And that's how we see that it's very, very easy to be very pessimistic.
I agree with that.
Silos in government, silos in nonprofits, silos in communities, silos in neighborhoods, and silos in families, silos in family members of families. Silos within individuals themselves. As an individual, you're divided completely because you are being manipulated based off of things you see, things you hear. You don't know what's left. You don't know what's right. You don't know what up from down. So it's clear that we are at war and is dealing with psychological warfare. And it's been happening for a very long time. And so if we can get an understanding of what's real versus what's fake, what's genuine and sincere, let's embrace that. So then we could have that JOY, that joy, because that's what we deserve. That's what we deserve to have. And we all want joy. No one walks around and says they don't want joy. And so when we can be more empathetic, and instead of saying, Durrell, Kinsey, Sebei, or representative such and such, or governor such and such, how are you going to change? JFK is the one who said it best. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Because it's a collective effort. That's what we have to do. We have to be collective and assertive.
Yeah.
Having an actual desired outcome with design-based thinking. You got to be pragmatic when it comes to this. So if we are really concerned, instead of bringing problems, let's strive to find solutions because we have the resources. We're behooving ourselves to think that we don't have the resources to fix the problems that we have. Because remember, they're social and economic. In a profound sense, they're moral and spiritual. In other words, the moral compass of Portland has to be elevated. And it can't stop rising. We're not talking about if you're a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew or whatever. No, morality. That has to be elevated. And so if you see someone who's houseless and your first thought is, oh, they're just out here because of this and that, and you're completely judging, not realizing you're two or one decision away from being in that same position. One bad decision, you're right there next to him or her or them. And so when it comes to the housing, it's very much important to embrace the family dynamics, the family nucleus. Every individual is from a family. That's the foundation of society. That's one of the main reasons why there is houselessness, because the families have been discombobulated, eradicated from its rooted infrastructure. And this is every single ethnic group, religious organization that exists in the United States of America. It's the family unit that has been destroyed. And we could talk specifically about the African American family. We know what happened with them in the 60s and 70s. That was actually designed by the federal government and COINTELPRO, etc. But now it's a virus that has affected everyone. Don't talk to me about the COVID-19 virus. That's nothing compared to eradicating people's lives and dismantling their mental capacity to think, reason, will, and understand. That's a mind shift that has to take place, because at the end of the day, to be quite honest, we're all houseless. Like, we don't own really anything. We didn't come here with anything and we're going to leave with nothing.
Oh, God.
You know what I'm saying? And so, it's important for us to be more integrated in how to better approach this human problem, because it's a human problem. And it's a result of us being passive with some people's decision making that has led to this situation. Because people want to scapegoat and say, oh, it's the rich people. Oh, it's the poor people. Oh, it's the criminals. Or it's the blacks. Oh, it's the whites. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's the police. Oh, it's you and I that have caused these problems. And you and I are the ones that have to fix it. So if we don't think about collective work and responsibility, there's no need for me to be running. And so that's the message. And so it's a collaboration to make this stuff work.
You talk about the structure, the dynamic, and the mindset of why Houseless is the way it is. How do you incorporate that message so that people can actually tangibly see and understand what you're saying? Because I think it's people are gonna look in the mirror and be like, yeah, no, that ain't me, and really get that understanding to be like, you're saying one thing, but I'm hearing something completely different.
I'm glad that you said that, because I kind of like have these conversations all the time with what I do, where like I always say for my line of work, what I do is like you have to be ready for the process. It's almost kind of like, can you read between the lines? Because there's a tangible thing, and the tangible thing is like everyone deserves the right to survive and live. Like, I understand if you got to miss this to go make some money, I understand. Or the philosophy of anybody can make money. You can go find a penny. You can, for 2 hours, you can walk around and find some money. So you can't tell me you can't make some money. You want to make a certain kind of money. And I feel like that's the conversation that is like difficult to have, because, and I'm just glad that you asked that, because like I also don't want to be a hogger. I was like, all right, I have like more questions, because the person or the casual, because like a lot of these things is like the casual, like how do you break that down for the casual? And the casual is like, oh, hey, if we allot 15,000 here, if we do this there. So I'm really glad you said that, AJ, because many people would watch that and hear this and be like, all right, it's a talking point. You see what I'm saying? So I appreciate you saying that.
Mm-hmm. One person in mind that I think of when this comes to this issue is Ben Andrews. He has a nonprofit in East Portland, and then I also think of REAP, organization I work for, and then I think of Black Economic Collective. I think of Unite Oregon. I think of who else we got? Feed 'em Freedom Farm, Moorish Fruits, my dad's farming organization. Just working with individuals to address these problems, and specifically those in the mental health, behavioral health industry. So it's like, okay, measuring the success based off of the data, so it's like, how many people do you intake, and how long, or what is the process in which you transition them out, or what is the objective to get them back into society with a wholesome makeup, if you will, or transformation. Mm-hmm. And so that then is measured, or would be measured, to then look at the budget, which is like $7 billion, and then begin to analyze what is the most valuable and how can we create a system of influence when it comes to the individuals who are houseless. Because sometimes people will say that some of them don't want help, and I understand that. And that is also predicated off of that particular condition in that particular time, because they could be, under the influence, or they could be dealing with trauma and under the influence. So you have a whole bunch of things going on with that, right? But one thing is important is recognizing that we have a public health issue and a public safety issue. And the public health and public safety issues, I have to be blunt and say, it does not fall because of one individual. Mm-hmm. So we have to create more facilities, whether it be health clinics or health clinics near schools, or mental health or behavioral health facilities next to colleges, or, what I'm saying? Like, these facilities have to be built. Like, we have to build these facilities. Like, and I think about this, because I think about this question, I processing this. And people are like, oh, you can't spend all this money for this. Well, based off of some words that Myron, I believe Commissioner Myron said out of her own mouth, so I'm not back-mouthing or, bashing anyone. She said that in 6 years, Multnomah County has received $760 million for houselessness. She said, we're all working in silos and none of us are doing our job correctly. Mind you, she included herself. $760 million could do a lot for the behavioral health and mental health industry in regards to serving people what they need, right? And I believe that when we approach it aggressively and make it clear that it's a national or a state of emergency for urgency, this is a temporary thing. We're not going to have this houselessness issue forever if we approach it appropriately. So I hope that answers your question, because that is what's going to give the tangible things. It's not about putting people in jail, because we know that does not work, because we've tried to do that with war on drugs in the last 40 to 50 years. We know it does not work. So we have to address the problem by creating facilities for those people to get that care. We say, all this health crisis, you're paying people too much and all this stuff. Is like, this is a state of emergency. So we have to all be in on this. We have to help the people, help them get out of the situation that they're in and get them out of the situation that they're in. Like, I don't really understand what other thing that people would expect or envision. These facilities have to be built. And then the type of facilities, that's going into more detail about the aspects of those organizational structures or institutions, because it's not going to be like for example, you have one tier is urgency, getting them off the streets, getting them in care. Boom. Like where we rehab, right? Behavioral analysis to see where their brain might be, where they may have to go to another facility in a different part of the state or different part of the country to receive another upper echelon of care that is not able to be supported here in Oregon, perhaps. Who knows? Because people have to deal with a whole bunch of different things. Yeah. So we find that, because some of those are going to be individual cases. And then we go to the next tier where you're starting to get them into housing, right? Permanent housing. Well, we have, I don't know, but roughly like 10,000 houseless in the city of Portland. And we have over, 250,000 homeowners, roughly, that would be more than happy with the parameters of safety, if you're dealing with children in the home, to have an ADU built on the back of the house, which has already been done. For whatever reason, it stopped. You had houselessness being attacked or confronted with having homes already built on people's property. Now, I think that upon doing something like that, we would probably adjust a little bit, so it's more providing more generational wealth for the family, as opposed to them having to pay it. I think there's some things that could be worked on with that. So I think that helps, because, like I said, the phases is going to be phases, and then we're going to be phasing out of some things, and then we're going to go into like where you have a facility that would be assisting more on like counseling, and it would be everyone involved with getting counseling. Yeah. You have the professionals there. You got the people that are in college that need the hours. Like, we need all those hours utilized on the crisis. Like, this is everybody involved with this. Like, that's how I see it.
And I'll end with, at least on my end for this. There's one thing you said I disagree with, and the only one thing you said I disagree with is there's only one true good program the prison system has created, and that was Scared Straight. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but there was this one kid. He was like, I need you to peel this orange or I'm going to come get you. He peeled the fastest orange. As a joke, I was just like, I don't want to see some more Scared Straight. Them kids learned. Do you want to be like me? I'm the dragon, but I really appreciate your point, but I don't know if these guys but I liked your answers, but I want to be fair to my co-hosts. But no, We need more Scare Straight, y'all.
Right on, right on.
Eat the orange anime.
I think there's one thing that I personally, but I think it also goes back to what you started with, housing on property, right? And you talk about being able to incorporate ADUs onto people's property for them to take ownership of whatever, or to be able to remove houselessness. And I think it goes back to what we talked about a few episodes ago when you were talking about your brother and how he's like, these people need to get away from in front of my house. But he was like, but you wouldn't take them in. And then when Pounce was talking about who works for Street Roots, he was talking about how, you know, we have this separation between a lot of these business owners and these houseless of kicking people out from in front of their property, but not realizing that they could use these people to protect them from broken windows. They could use these people to help clean up the front of their property and maybe pay them an incentive or something, some financial gain for these individuals to help these people who own these businesses out. So it's like, for me, I have this toss up in between my head of like the eagerness to help, right? But also this eagerness to help when it comes to my own, right? Like if I'm owning property, and you're the state or the city is like, look, we need to put EDU in the back. We're gonna have a houseless family here, and you're like, wait, time out, what? Yeah. And so it's like this combination of reality and this eagerness of actually helping, right? So it's how do we check and balance ourselves individually because of these silos and this individual mindset of like, how do we make community what it is? How do we create community? And not being afraid to approach houselessness in that facet, to get people to understand like how this can be beneficial, not only to the homeowner, but also to the people.
That's another great question. And I mean, we spoke on it a little earlier about, I think you said a talking point that could have been a critique for me. But there is an element of philosophical readjustment, because, you know, if you think differently, your life will change. And so if you are projecting certain thoughts that are negative, you will create more negative. If you're thinking thoughts that are positive, you will create more positive things. Now, it doesn't mean, because I know that one individual is there, is going to be like, well, I think that I'm going to have $1 million tomorrow, Mr. Mayoral candidate Durrell Kinsey Bay. You know, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about a mindset and a mentality and a lifestyle that takes time to embrace and readjust and reprocess and process again and destroy and create. Like, this is a lifestyle change that we're going into upon me being elected or not. This is where the world is going. This is not something you can avoid. Wherever you live on the planet, you cannot avoid this. The way people are thinking is going to change regardless. And there will be aspects of people's thinking that will be extremely negative and narcissistic and sinister. And there will be people that will have thoughts that will be way super ethereal and majestic and all those wonderful things. But it's changing. It's changing. There's organizations that are being formed internationally that are forcing businesses to conduct themselves on a higher moral way, or they won't get funding. Like on an international, we're talking about billions and billions of dollars.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. We'll talk about that after the show. But this has already taken place. And KRS-One said it best: authenticity will be like gold in this next age. And this is 2013 when he said it, so it's 10 years ago. And so that's where we're going. So, you know, if, you know, people are listening to this and they have critiques, I welcome it. You know, you have the ability to email me at mayor-elect Durrell Kinsey Bay at gmail.com. And of course, we'll get the spelling for them at the subtitles on the bottom or top or side or whatever. Elect Kinsey Bay on Facebook and Instagram. And you could reach out to me, 509-406-4853. All of that is good. But you have to remember that we have a stake in this that we should embrace as our own, as opposed to just having our opinions be launched out on the screen, what they call thumb thugging, and not having, ownership in the solution aspect. When it comes to houselessness, I mean, because people are doing a lot of complaining. Mm-hmm. Never put any money to a nonprofit, but they make six figures, but they're complaining. Make six figures, they're complaining, and they want to make, get leverage on taxes and things like that. You could donate to a 501c3 for houselessness to be revitalized and help out. Volunteer somewhere. I mean, see what's going on. There's so many different things that we can do. We just have to do something and start moving forward with it. Because all this planning of plans, to plan a plan, to plan the plan that's being planned for more planning to be planned for the plan. That is asinine.
My friend.
We have years and years and years of planning. We've planned enough. It's time to implement and execute, because people are dying. They're dying daily. And there's people being murdered that are houseless, murdering other. I mean, it's chaotic. So if we just stand and just, let's stop. Someone stop this. Someone stop. It's like, how about you help stop it in any way, in any possible way? Just be invested. Say it's my city, be invested. I'm not even from here. I'm invested. You know what I'm saying? I'm a homeowner. I'm a father. I'm a community member. I engage in the community, which is dealing with civics. The rights, civics is the responsibilities and duties of citizenship. People are anti-United States, and it's because a lot of the times they're too busy complaining and not integrating themselves into the society and community that they live in to actually have their voice be spoken. People say voting doesn't matter, but one year was Trump and the next year was Biden. And you're saying voting doesn't count. You voted Biden in, just like other people voted Trump in. Voting does matter, but politics is local. So when it comes to houselessness, again, there is a plethora of things that need to be implemented and will be implemented with the help of the people. We have organizations that are already doing it. There's no need to cut funding from those organizations. We bring more funding in those organizations, encourage community members to help those organizations or start their own with their little tweak that they might have that helps houselessness a little better, or hires them to do certain things. Or you might even have people that are from prison that are like, you know what? I don't got the ability to get a job because I'm a felon. Well, let's support him. He has the vision, or she has the vision, or they have the vision. Let's get our monies together and put it into them. We have, you can invest $20, get 50,000 people. $20, you have $1 million. 50,000 people invest $20, you have $1 million. And there's 650,000 people in Portland. And this is just Portland, y'all.
Yeah. Wow. I'm curious, what is your take on Measure 110, which for people listening don't know, it's the one that Oregon passed last year to decriminalize possession of illicit drugs. Since we're on the topic of homelessness, and that's kind of been one of the controversial measures that's passed recently, I'm curious, what's your take on that?
I'm conflicted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Perplexed.
That's fair, yeah. Yeah.
Dumbfounded. Bamboozled.
There you go.
Hoodwinked.
Better.
Led astray. I had a conversation with an individual about this at the town hall last night with Senator Casey Jama and House Representative Nguyen and House Representative Valderrama, and talking to some of their chief of staff. And I notice, and this is even before I was in my 20s. This is like high school and middle school. I noticed that there were drugs or herbs that were considered to be illegal at a certain time in our history as a country. And there were certain concoctions that were galvanized or put together that were also considered to be illegal. But yet when individuals with certain ailments consumed them, they were healed. Yeah. So there's a man named Dr. Sebei. He encouraged a plant-based diet, specifically an alkaline diet, dealing with the pH, potential hydrogen of the body being on a homeostatic realm for the body to be able to push off the free radicals and the different aspects that cause harm to the body, like cancer, which is a dis-ease in the body. Meaning the body's not at ease. That's how disease comes up. That's how tumors come up. That's how cancer spreads. Because there's dis-ease in the body, which is also associated with stress, stress. Stress can cause cancer in the body. So you are what you eat in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And not to get too far into it, but there's things that are from a lot of the indigenous people that they share and provide, and it causes more healing. So, to the long story short, to be long, because I wanted to be able to give context for the people who are listening, things that actually add value, that's not supposed to be dictated or governed or resisted or restricted by the FDA, that actually add value to people's lives, that should be legal. But see, there's a they gonna get me on this one. There's a agenda, right, for people to remain sick, to remain ill. A healthy people, where are the hospitals needed for? Yeah, you heard me. Yeah. Where will the hospitals be if everyone is well and not ill? So, we have individuals who concocted certain things that are actually chemicals that are man-made.
Yes.
Not the original origin, like the cocoa plant.
Yeah.
Which is what cocaine and crack then becomes.
Yeah.
Like, these things are actually natural to the planet Earth. Yeah. And if an individual gets certified or gets the proper education from the shaman, the indigenous doctor of 10 billion years ago, that is still running his healing and her healing and their healing structure of governing the body that they've already learned and established for billions of years, that can be introduced. But when you're introducing things that in your heart of hearts was concocted for a nefarious reason to destroy the bodies and minds and hearts of the American people, and then you had individuals like the cartel, individuals like the cartel and other organizations and syndicates that benefited off of the drugs being brought into the United States of America, and then say, oh, the drugs are going everywhere. See, the problem is this, because this is dealing with more than Measure 10, but I'm 110, and we're going to address this, though. This became an issue when it comes to drugs. When people who were non-African descent or non-Mexican or non-Latino or so-called non-BIPOC people, it became an issue when Europeans were then beginning to be destroyed by these drugs. It then became a concern of public health and public safety.
Yeah.
We have to be honest about that. That's the truth.
Yeah.
They didn't have any care when our people were in the streets with heroin, cocaine. But then they had to make something even more advanced. Had to go to methamphetamines. Had to go to fentanyl. They had to concoct something more extreme to destroy the human brain.
Yeah.
We have to be sound and have to demand the original elements or the original healing elements for the people. Make that legal. Don't give us something that was concocted in a laboratory for the intent, the main purpose to destroy people. You know what I'm saying? So that's...
And to get a profit.
You are right and exact. My background is massage. I love massaging. I grew up massaging. My grandmother was a massage therapist. It was healing people. Mm-hmm. Massage helps the body. Yeah. Chiropractic care. I used to work for a chiropractor. Chiropractic care helps the body. The nervous system, the CNS, the central nervous system, it revitalizes the whole entire ecosystem of the human being. Mm-hmm. If you are able to take yourself away or take the support for insurance and Medicare, and Medicaid, all these different services, and you don't support the thing that actually helps people, this is what it goes back to. Mm-hmm. Actually heal the people. But see, you don't want to do that because you lose your whole entire capitalistic oligopoly, monopoly, aristocracy, bureaucratic structures. They will no longer exist. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm talking to you. They won't exist anymore. And so, like, we have to be willing to embrace the truth. Mm-hmm. The truth will make you free. So, Measure 110.
Yes.
I'm sure that there's aspects of it that was intended to be positive, right?
Yeah.
Because they wanted to trying to give somebody something, clean needles to wean them off in hopes that they will no longer want to do the drug anymore. But yet, it's also dealing with population control.
Yeah. That's an interesting perspective because, the explanation they give is it's a system that they implemented in places like Belgium and the Netherlands where they already have these rehab facilities built out for people who struggle with addiction. So then they have these laws where they decriminalize the drugs. Well, in Portland, they decided to decriminalize the drugs first and then not invest money into facilities, as you talked earlier about, rehabilitation, getting people back on, into society in a normal way. We just said, okay, have at it.
Yeah, I think there was some aspects of sincere intention. However, the old
people voted for it, so I guess
because of the idea, right? They were sold on the idea, the hope, because hope is a beacon light. But if someone gives you a false hope and you don't know, and there's a hidden agenda behind it, then you end up having a different situation on your hands. So there's some things that have to be addressed when it comes to Measure 110. And hopefully it could be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
As you talk about I got sidetracked. So as you talk about Measure 110 and this idea of for me, this clarity of legalizing the drug aspect in Portland, for me, it feels like the people that are doing it behind closed doors now have no fear to be able to do those things because they know they won't get in trouble for it. So I think that's also why part of that bill passed so quickly and so easily, because it's now I can do this if I choose to. And it's not going to affect me. But the ones we see the most are what we talked about, the houseless folks who actually are on the street doing it visibly. But my question to you is you tapped a little bit into about Dr. Sebei's. You talked about this whole mind, body, soul aspect of the healing process, and you talked about your aspect a little bit of being vegan. Talk about how food is power, but also you preach about your food deserts and changing that. Like, what is that mantra and that mindset of not only being vegan but creating these opportunities where there's no more food deserts?
People are not going to like the answer. I mean, I hope they do. But
Before you answer, sorry to interrupt. AJ, could you explain to people listening what a food desert is, maybe, for people who don't know?
For those that don't understand what a food desert is where they don't have access to fresh produce, fruits and vegetables, and a lot of their stuff is shipped in to corner stores. So they get their bananas from a corner store, apples, whatever, that are highly processed, that are not healthy or well for them. So no, they don't really have a massive amount of like good grocery stores to where they can
Like
get
just a Walmart, right?
Yeah, it's just a Walmart, or even not even a Walmart. They just have a convenience store to where it's, and I know we haven't had them on here, but in an interview that I did with Juwan Emmanuel, Plant-Based Poppy, he talked about being from Flint, Michigan, and how he lived in a food desert, and how, man, they didn't know anything about fruits and vegetables besides the corner store fruits and vegetables that they didn't even eat. So it was like, that is what a food desert is not being able to have access to fresh produce, fresh fruits and veggies that are actually good for you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
excuse me. It's about intentionality. Forgive me for getting emotional. It's about intentionality, because if you are being selfish and you were not focused on common unity, which they call community, common unity, I mean, there's a commonality that binds the people together, right? And neighborhood, right? To be someone's neighbor. I mean, that's a biblical principle in itself. When you say, I'm a neighbor is supposed to be a friend, acquaintance at the least, someone who's kind-hearted, sincere, genuine, respectful. We don't have that. And we call these neighborhood associations. And that associating with no friendship, you're not cultivating friendship. So when it comes to dealing with food sovereignty, that's the eradication of the food deserts. If people can recognize that the space that they see on sidewalks with grass or grassy lawns, that the Water Bureau is being destroyed, for lack of better terms, of the water being wasted on grass and not utilized for fresh and organic food to actually uplift that family economically, so then they don't have to go to the grocery store. They can actually have the food right there, just like at my home. I have a 200 square foot farm that then we can say, oh, hey, neighbor, friend, acquaintance, I have a kind gesture for you. It's food. Here you go. Yeah. Whether it be $1, $2, or whatever they want to pay some money, because we still have the United States dollar for now.
For now.
We can do that. But there'll be a time when that will be just as valuable as the gas in the tank and that vehicle that they drive, or that electric car that they may want to participate in investing in.
Yeah.
We are getting out of control, because there's going to be a time, if we're not careful, where individuals will come to, we already experienced it in COVID, so I'm not a conspiracy theorist or making stuff up. You're going to go to the grocery store and it's going to be locked.
Yeah.
You won't be able to go in. Whether you're African descent, European descent, a transgender, a homosexual, a they, them, this, queer, two-spirit, They're going to say no. They're going to keep it for their employees or their family. That's what's going to end up happening. And so why not be self-sufficient? And back to the statement about Greater Idaho, self-sufficiency is kind of where they operate on. And they feel like people are superimposing on their values.
Yeah.
Now, granted, some of those people are racist, but yet self-sufficiency is the objective to what we're talking about. Don't get distracted because someone says the N-word. Do they have food to eat? Are they being self-sufficient? Is that a model you can use? Discard, take off the racism off the plate and learn about some principles that people are actually trying to show you and respect them as individuals who are self-sufficient when you're getting mad at them because you're not. There's nothing wrong with being self-sufficient.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with teaching your children what you want to teach them. Homeschooling. There's nothing wrong with homeschooling. If you have the proper infrastructure and the state guidelines are there for the infrastructure for you to be able to give them the test that they need, by all means do it. At the same time, it does not mean that you as a community member should not support your school district, which should have food, not grass. It should all be edible. Should be edible so they can eat it, so they can add value to their whole entire learning process. I work at Allisop Middle School and the students hate the food. They all hate the food. My mom would never make this. That's what they say. My dad would never make this. This is disgusting.
Yeah.
But this is all we got. That is horrible. Then you go to the foyer. You got 700 to 1,000 square feet of grass. Could have tomatoes, butternut squash, zucchini, pickled cucumber, okra, onions, beets, bell pepper, peppers, watermelon, pumpkins. Come on, man. Sunflower seeds, arugula, collards, rutabaga. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just naming a few.
Cabbage.
Cabbage,
I love cabbage.
mullein, rosemary, strawberries, boysenberries. Not just playing. But no, you know what I'm saying? You can have all of it.
Yeah.
Big booty Latinos.
Yeah, all of that is available. All of that's available, and it's simply a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And then what do? We integrate the farming strategies in this food system with the students, so then they can learn how to grow their own food. Then they can learn how to cook their own food. Then they can learn how to package their own food. Then they can learn how to sell their own food. I literally have a program, my father more so, but we have a program to be able to do that from seed to shelf, where you be able to help the students learn the whole process, and they can either maybe make money towards some of their class projects, or make money towards maybe their grade projects, or make more money for their school projects, or make money for the school district that's going back to the community. They're growing the food, they make the money, then they give it back to the students, then they give it back to the teachers, then they give it back to the janitors, then they give it back to the administration, they give it back to the unions. All from what? 1,000 square foot of food produce. Not to mention the other side of the school. This is one school.
Yeah.
So my father, Kwame Bey, was able to gross. He was able to gross $100,000 in 1 year with half an acre of land. Now, either he's very, very intelligent, or he simply has the ability to put a seed in the dirt and water it, give it some sunlight, and then add value to his community. And he learned this through YouTube. Now, my dad served in the military, don't get me wrong. However, he was not a farmer, me growing up. He learned this on YouTube. And now he has a small business that is becoming a big business in just 3.5 years' time. And also, I'll mind you, and little drop shout out to the United States Department of Agriculture. They have some good things, they have some bad things, but right now they're giving out lots and lots and lots and billions of dollars to BIPOC farmers. So you want to learn how to farm, you want to go on a farm program. We got all this stuff. So we have the ability to scale it so no one in Portland will go without food. That is, we have the infrastructure.
Yep.
We have the support to do this. This is not some far-fetched thing that will be requiring plans to plan things, to plan more plans.
Yeah.
We don't have that. We have a whole system and a whole bunch of farmers that have done nothing but great work in the community that we could scale this to the whole entire state. And then everyone in the rest of the states will say, wow, look at that. Because my goal is to make Portland internationally relevant, because Portland is the second capital of the state of Oregon. I don't think anyone wants to accept that. It's similar to Illinois. Chicago is the second capital of Illinois. It's Springfield. But you can go to Chicago and file paperwork in the Secretary of State in Chicago. Portland is just like Chicago in that regard. So those three things I wanted to mention, if before I forget or whatever, I don't want to forget them. 3 initiatives: family-based public health, community-based public safety, putting the public in public safety, and third is holistic ecological infrastructure. We are going to make Portland a solar city, where you can actually utilize your waste. I don't know if we could do this as a big project, but it would be human waste if we could, and then the compost from the food at the very least, transform that and transmute it into methane gas to actually cook on a stove. And this stuff is already being done. It's about just implementation and execution. And then explaining to people how the process works. It's very, very simple.
I know somebody does it. Whoa. As we
Real quick, on that agrovoltaics, that's one of the ways how we're going to be able to increase the solar energy. Agrovoltaics is high-level technology where you can have, there's several different forms of solar panels, but one goes like this with the sun all day long. Yeah. Super, super cool. And then you have plants under that. Then you have stuff you have on the house, all that stuff. That's cool. Then you have stuff that can float. Just like a marine drive on Columbia River, you can have stuff floating. Yeah. Solar panels floating on water, bro. On water.
Yeah.
Meaning we could have a contract with Coos Bay and Seaside and say, hey, Portland, Seaside, we're trying to do a collaborative effort to actually add solar energy, renewable energy to the state of Oregon. This is bigger than Portland. So this is something that's already happening. Let's get into it. Let's make it happen.
It's crazy. We can have conversation all day, but we cannot right now. But I want you, at the end of the day, to let the people know how they can get a hold of you, how they can vote for you, your campaign, give them the whole rundown of you. And then we'll break out of here.
Right on. Again, my name is Durrell, Durrell. Javon, Javon, Kinsey, Kinsey, space, no hyphen, capital B, lowercase EY, Durrell Javon Kinsey Bay is my full legal name. And candidate committee is Friends of Bay. We registered as a candidate committee June 2nd, 2023, before Mangus Maps, for the record. Okay. They said that I was not the first. They said there was no other mayoral candidates, just Mangus Maps. I'm looking at it. Man, I know I registered before him. Come to find out, I was right and exact. But nonetheless, that's where you can find me regards to that, Friends of Bay. Again, Instagram, elect Kinsey Bay, ELECT KINSEY with the space BEY. Facebook, same, elect Kinsey Bay. And mayor-elect Durrell Kinsey at gmail.com. Phone number 509-406-4853. Peace.
Whew. Oh my goodness. I like how you in that. It's like that, like Mike Jones line 8004 hit my mouth. Like I like the it is like I'm not gonna, I did call Mike Jones. He didn't respond, but I got his voicemail.
I did too.
See? And I was just say, even though I really don't speak for these men and gentlemen, but we talk about like politics a lot here, you know, obviously from like a funny lens, but also we do get serious in our own right. And I just want to say, at least on my end, thank you for coming on, because being able to have a podcast like this, being able to talk to whomever comes on and bridging those gaps, and especially we hope that you're not the last elected official that we have on the show to talk about like what really is going on and how we could do things better. And yeah, man, I just want to say really appreciate your mind. It's very, very dope, and it's very, very what do you call it? I want to say it's very holistic, because it's thinking about all people and how we all can get it together. And I feel like that's the problem with a lot of politics, is it's why are we playing Super Bowl with people's lives? Like, it's not teams. It's like, if the aliens come, they say we're going to kill all the humans, not some of the humans, all of them. Mm-hmm. So I just want to say I really appreciate that.
Gratitude.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, using us as a platform for yourself, and kind of sharing, getting yourself out there, and just kind of opening up our mind to more discussion. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
You know what it is for me, man. It's always a pleasure to cultivate conversation. I think it's vast and always informative and educational. But with that being said, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell. If you do, that's free. Remember, that's free. But if you like to donate, donate to $Hero.
Bob, I want to holistically, you know, help my friends and pay them handsomely.
Finally, he's on time, but he's actually saying something real facts.
I am saying real facts.
So make sure you donate to Hero Bob.
Yeah.
Here, Bob.
Hero Bob.
Bob.
See, that's why I have him do it, not me. But thank you for listening. It's been another episode, and we out. Peace.
Probably wondering if I think of you. Sorry, I'm for the bag right now. Yeah, I'm for the bag right now. Yeah, for the bag that I never had. Yeah, you probably mad right now. Yeah, I got a 2-piece now. Shit, I think they call them groupies now.